Hi, welcome to Chad's Silversmithing. Before we get too far into the video, if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button, that really helps get my channel promoted, and I appreciate it. I also like it if you leave a comment and tell me what you think. Seeing as some of my Thursday videos with the multiple projects seem to do pretty well and people seem to like them, I thought today we could do another earring video with 3 different kinds of earrings that feature little silver balls that I make out of scrap. And so we'll come up with some different styles and make 3 different ones and see how they turn out. Before we get started though, I wanted to thank some groups of people. First off, my patrons over on Patreon. They're my core group of supporters, and I so much enjoy interacting with them over there. They've created a really nice environment, lots of knowledge, people sharing information, and I really appreciate their financial support as well. So it's a great group. Thank you for being like that. Also, I wanted to thank my YouTube subscribers. We're right around 9,900 last I checked, and I imagine we'll hit 10,000 pretty soon, so I'm pretty excited about that. Thank you all for subscribing to my channel. I never thought I'd have this many subscribers. I'm really flattered that you find my content interesting enough to subscribe, so thank you for that. I also really appreciate the financial contributions like the Buy Me a Coffee and the Super Thanks. Those kind of things really help out with raw materials, which I go through pretty quickly, so thanks for that. That helps a lot. All right, with that being said, let's get started on these 3 projects. So here's a couple of my design idea books. There's numerous different types on the merch store right now. There's a couple of new ones up there that you might be interested in. You should check out. I'll put some pictures up above my head here. This is what I'm currently using, and I find that it's really useful anymore for me to draw up my designs in advance. I end up getting a little bit better outcome if I have some plans in place. And so I've gotten to where I always do this anymore. Oops, not that one. Here's what I drew up for today, and I was just kind of sketching ideas of earrings that involved little silver balls that we make out of scrap. The ones that I ended up choosing are not super complicated. This first one here is just basically kind of an upside down question mark with a little ball on a post sticking up to the center of that kind of semicircle. I think those will look kind of cool. Second one, I'm going to do, I think I'm going to use 16 gauge round wire with little balls on the ends, and then have one of them that comes out here and wraps around the other 2. And of course the one on the other ear will go the opposite direction. And finally, I think I'm going to do 2 of these curvy things with random balls soldered to the sides of them. And I'm going to try and set them, I haven't decided if I'm going to do opposite directions or the same direction, but I'm going to put one in front of the other one so they move kind of back and forth like that. I think that'll give it some nice movement, but we'll see. I'm going to use 16 gauge wire for that. This one I'm going to use 14 gauge to make it a little stiffer and thicker. So, but those are the ones I'm going to do this time. It was a close second on this one. I thought about doing that because I think those would be pretty cool too, but maybe another time I'll do those ones. I made a prototype on one of them just to see whether I liked it or not, and I think I do. And so I cut a piece of wire. Let's see how long this ended up being. It's about 35 millimeters or so. What I did was I made a mark right about where I want to make that bend happen, but if I want that bend to kind of look angular, I'm going to have to file a little notch right there so that I can bend it sharply and then solder that so it's a permanent bend. So I'm just going to file kind of a notch here, not all the way through, just a little ways in. But that should allow me to kind of make a bend like that. You know, and that's pretty close. I'm not going to make it a 90-degree bend, maybe 60. I'm just kind of estimating them. But I'm just going to kind of make it look like that one. And then we'll solder this closed here. And then we'll bend that. And then we'll make a few balls. And we'll put a little pillar on there and add a ring. So that'll be our next step. Let's go ahead and solder this. I use, if you've never been to my channel before, I use primarily hard silver sheet solder, almost exclusively. And I use a liquid flux called My-T-Flux that I spray on with a spray bottle, which is not the way that everybody does things, and that's okay. It's always good to have extra solder handy in case something goes wrong. My torch is a Smith acetylene air torch called the Silversmith model. And I've been using it for years, and it's a great torch. Just pick up a little bit of solder there. Heat this up to the soldering temperature and touch it there. That should make it so that that's a permanent bend like that. So what I was doing there is called pick soldering, and if you're interested in that, it's a super useful skill to have. It allows you to place a piece of solder of exactly the amount that you want, exactly where you want it to go. So it'll step up your skill level if you learn how to do that. So here's a video if you want to check it out on how to do that. But I use that routinely when I'm doing stuff. I'm going to keep this other one over here so I can kind of get it symmetrical with that. So we got that here, so we need to go the opposite way, right? And I think I'm going to use one of my pairs of bail making pliers. It's got a relatively big circular part down here that'll work for this, I think. So I'm just going to take it like that. Sorry about the band-aid, I have a crack in the end of my finger. So this is going to be a little bit too tight, I think. And so what I'm going to do to make it match a little bit is I have this round jumping mandrel. If I slide it up there, I should be able to get it pretty close to the same size as this one. It's always awkward doing something with a band-aid on. Alright. Didn't mean to fling that across the room. I'm going to try and keep it in the same kind of plane if I can. Okay. Now if you've never made decorative silver balls out of scrap, I think it's kind of fun. And so let me find some scrap wire over here. A little piece of 18 gauge. Now let's cut some different pieces. If I can find my wire cutters, I'm just going to cut them at random lengths because some of these earrings I'm going to need various sizes because I want them to be kind of random. So we'll do some significantly different sized pieces. Sometimes when your little melted balls are cooling, if you've just barely gotten them to temperature, they'll kind of cool and contract a little bit and form a rough surface. I found that if you heat them just a little bit more above that melting point and keep it hot for a minute, it seems to burn off some of those bits of impurity and things that are in there, and then they cool off and they have a nicer surface. So do it on a charcoal block because they tend to have nicer bottoms on them. If I try and do it on my solderite pad, which I use for most everything else, they tend to have a concave bottom on them, which is less than desirable. So But that's how we make silver balls. And I've actually got one that matches the other one already that I made earlier, so I would have mismatched balls. Nobody wants to have mismatched balls. Embarrassing. Okay, so that's going to be for that one. Let these guys cool off. I'll probably make some more off camera. I just wanted to show you how I make the little silver balls. Okay, so I need to find another piece of 14 gauge round wire. I had some in here maybe. There's a new mug on my merch store you should check out. It features a picture of me drinking a cup of coffee with epic bedhead. So I think it's kind of funny. It's a good way to support the channel. Buy yourself a coffee cup where you can laugh at me when you drink your coffee. I gave my patrons 2 different choices as far as design for this cup. One of which I had fallen asleep with my head resting on one of our cats. And the other one was this picture of me with this really bad bedhead. So they chose the bedhead. I had forgotten the flux there. I really wanted to be kind of centered or close in that circle, or semicircle, and also be lined up with that the part that's going upwards. So kind of like that. Cut it off a little bit long and then file it down until it's about the right size. That looks pretty good to me. So let's transfer it over to my pad here. Back here. Oops. Never fails. Get everything all lined up and then I spray it out of position. Alright. Now I made some jump rings as well by wrapping some 20 gauge wire around a little brass rod that I have. I didn't much like making earrings years ago when I first started because you had to make 2 things that looked a lot alike. But they've grown on me over the years. Sometimes you make something and you're like, oh, those are really cool. We'll see. I'm going to pre-melt a little bit of solder to close this ring up, and then we'll just attach it to the top of this. Okay. So I think those will be cute. Put one on We'll put them both in the pickle and let those clean up, and we'll get started on the second ones. So the second ones, I need some pieces of 16 gauge, and I was out of 16 gauge, so I took some 14 and I pulled it through a draw plate until it was the right thickness. And I think I'm just gonna, let's just cut pieces to the right length here. Do 2 of those, and then 2 slightly shorter. So the thing about doing things together, when you're soldering 2 pieces of wire together next to each other this way, when that solder flows, it's going to have a tendency to wick along that seam and pull them together. So I'm going to try and prevent that when that starts happening. I thought about making each of these out of a single piece of wire and just cutting a notch so I could bend it like I did on that other thing, but I decided to live dangerously. So far, so good. So we need a couple balls that are bigger than that too, so let's find some more scrap. Whenever you're soldering little balls to things, you always want to check after you solder them to make sure that they're on there solidly. It's always embarrassing when you sell something and your balls fall off. I'm going to put the rounded ball side upwards and just kind of flatten it. Top it just a skosh. So I'm going to put a ring on top after I file these kind of smooth. But I'm going to leave them in this shape while I'm pickling and while I'm polishing them, because it'll be much easier to polish these when they're in this shape than after I spiral it around. So we'll do that last. But let's get these filed up nice on the top. Yeah, I started to have something go wrong there. Try to push those back apart. Almost an embarrassing faux pas. I'm going to add a little bit more solder to that one just to be safe. Alright, so we'll let those pickle. And then we'll make those third pair. The third pair is going to need 4 little pieces of wire like that. So hopefully there's enough of that left from this. I think there is. So about like that one. Part of the reason I didn't like to make earrings in the past was you had to do twice as much work as you would for, say, a ring. If you wanted to do something, you know, complex, and you really couldn't get any, you know, you couldn't get as much money for it, because earrings tend to be priced a little bit lower. As you get faster, things like that matter less, I suppose. That's probably close enough. So we need to make them curvy like that. Kind of an S shape, but a gentle S shape. So the question in my mind is, since I'm going to be putting one in front of the other on this particular earring, it would look better to have 2 going this way with random balls? I think probably this way. So the other question is, do I want them to be totally random on both sides, or do I want both sides to match each other, but each of these be random? So I think I'm going to try and make each side match each other, but each of these will be different from each other, if that makes sense. Alright, I don't want to overdo it. Probably put too many balls on. But let's put 5 on these ones so we have an odd number. Odd numbers generally look better. some 20 gauge wire. I'm going to wrap these around a piece of 14 gauge round wire. So I think these can go in the pickle. Like I said, I'm going to put one in front of the other like this, so they move freely. And to do that, I'm going to need to make kind of a triple jump ring that's all together. I think this will work anyway. We'll see. That. I don't like that. So I'm just going to take this, line this up a little bit better. And I'm going to solder it in the middle there. We'll see how that works. Okay, let's see if we can't solder those together. Watching me do this carefully, you're going to be wondering, why did he solder those closed? If he's going to hang these from them, and it's because I want to be able to cut them and solder them right exactly where it'll be easiest to do it, and not really have to worry about these things having weird problems. The other thing is, I could have split these ones on the side and then do that, but there's a lot less mass in these to get these up to soldering temperature than there is to get these up to soldering temperature. And so if I'm trying to prevent anything else from flowing on this one, but only flow on here, that's better than if I'm trying to get anything, just one thing to flow on here, because this is so small it'll reach temperature long before that and you may accidentally solder it to it. This way I can focus the heat just on this thing, and then I won't accidentally cause anything else over here to flow. I like that. Those are nice. Okay, let's see if we can get these soldered without messing anything up. Do our best. It's pretty good. Nothing's in contact there. Okay, I'm going to throw this into pickle. Everything's still moving. I'm going to have to redo this little piece here because I kind of soldered this one on there, which I was trying not to do. So we'll do that off camera, but that's basically the idea. After I do that, I'll pickle it, and then we will. I'll show you the final result after I polish it. Alright, so I got those all finished, and I wanted to wrap these on camera, so I'm just going to try and kind of wind them around here. I'm not sure if I'm going to need a tool or not. Yeah, probably better. Oh, I think those are probably the coolest ones of the three, maybe. I'm not sure. You'll have to tell me in the comments which ones you like. But let me get this other one done, which I kind of like. Those are sort of, I don't know, Bauhaus or something. We got these here. Not sure. These are just kind of spirally, but they're cool. And then these are going to be hard to see how they're going to hang when they're laying down, but they should hang like that. I'll try and get pictures where it shows it. So, yeah. Alright, so I'll get some better pictures and put them at the end. Alright, well that was the ball earrings, part 2 I guess, since it's the second one I did with ball earrings. And I really appreciate you taking the time to watch. If you enjoyed the content, make sure to hit the like button before you leave. Feel free to leave a comment too. I love suggestions, questions, things like that are great. You might want to take a minute and check out my playlist page. I'm approaching 300 videos now, and so I have a lot of content here, and it becomes a little bit cumbersome to navigate. So if you're looking for a beginner sort of project, there's a beginner's list. If you're looking for projects that involve pendants, then there's a pendants list. They're split into a number of different categories that I think will be useful, and it will make it easier to find the stuff you need. So watch a few more videos and then subscribe to my channel. I'd love to have you as a subscriber. The other thing is, check out my video description down below here. There's some relevant links that are important to me. There's a link to my merch page where you can get one of those nice design idea books, including the new ones, or one of those coffee cups that celebrate my epic bedhead from that one day. There's a link to my Patreon if you want to find out more about that and become a supporter in that way. There's a link to the Buy Me a Coffee page, which helps out with supplies, like I said. And there's even a link to my website where you can buy jewelry that I've made. So check that out. There's a lot of good deals over there and some really nice stuff. Thanks for coming to my YouTube channel. Take care. Happy silversmithing.